Should we start or are we waiting for someone else to join?
No, I will start. I'll introduce you to all the students present here so that they can get an idea of what are we going to have as a panel member today.
All right.
Okay, thank you. So, hello everyone, good evening, and good evening to Navyaka as well. So, let me introduce the speaker today. So, our speaker today is an accomplished professional and a dedicated civil servant. And after completing her BTech in 2020, she devoted herself to preparing the civil service examination. In 2022, she successfully cleared the Andhra Pradesh Public Service Commission examination and began her career as lay secretary in that Directorate of Medical Education, Vijayawada. Continuing her pursuit of excellence, she went on to clear the civil service examination in 2023. I congratulate her for clearing her civil service examination, and she gained the prestigious position of Indian Postal Service. She has undergone the 15-week foundation service course at Lavasna, Lal Bahadur Shastri National Academy of Administration, followed by 89 weeks of specialized training at Rafi Ahmed Kewai National Postal Academy. These enriching experiences across the two India's premier civil service academics has provided her with a deep insights into the diverse roles and responsibilities of civil servants as across the nation. And she is now here with us to share her experiences and guide you all on the examinations and competitive field that you are going to face after your BTech. So let's welcome her.
Thank you, Sneha. Thank you for such a warm introduction. So, I think I would like to know participants here. What are you guys pursuing? Second year, third year? Can you please introduce yourselves? I hope I'm audible, right?
Yes, Akka, you're audible.
Yeah. I just want to know the target audience so that I can actually, customize my talk. I just want to know your introductions.
So here the students all are from third year and second year, and a bit of fourth year students who are interested, and we got an audience who are interested in civil service, and some of our students are preparing for UPSC as well.
All right, all right. So it won't be a monologue session. Don't worry. It will be a two-way conversation. Anyway, you can stop me in between whenever you need to clarify things. So, I welcome all of you to this session. It generally feels so, it's so nice to connect all of you over here. I was one among you past few years. I passed out from NIT Andhra Pradesh 2020. So I was one of the second batches of this institute. So as she has told that I have cleared both state services and then central services. So I think it would be better if I introduce why I joined civil services. So I think it is a question everybody wants to know. So it is not something dramatic reason I would like to give because it was in my childhood dream. It was something which started after my ninth standard. That is when I was very curious about the surroundings and the kind of social issues that were prevalent in the society. That is when the thought of civil services came into my mind, and but I couldn't pursue humanities after my 10th standard. As you all know that in Telugu states, the kind of uh, the support we do not get for the humanities as much as we get for the science subjects. So I have opted for something science in my 12th, and then I had to pursue engineering. So somehow I ended up in electrical engineering, just like you guys. And engineering, it was so overwhelming for me because I was not prepared for the engineering some things. I wanted to pursue civil services as a career. So in between graduation is something everybody needed. So for me, engineering was a kind of mechanism for it. I did not pursue it out of passion. It was something because I had to do it. So first couple of years was overwhelming for me, and I lost interest in the engineering. To be very honest, uh, but after 2 years, I think I've realized that something should be done. I started shifting my attention towards engineering. That's when I thought, ki, let's do something because I was in engineering. I need something to get out of this college. That is my certificate. So I started working on my engineering subjects at that time. I was, I started rebuilding myself bit by bit. So, although my confidence, discipline, hope, everything, by final year, I don't, I've graduated with distinction. So, that was one of the greatest achievement I would say, because in the first year, my grades were so low that I never thought that I will clear engineering with distinction. So, that's when that one question has changed my life. Is this something that I want in my life? So after engineering, it was COVID year, and I, and that's when again I started preparing for civil services. By the end of fourth year, I started preparing for civil services again. So first 2 years, it was like um, I didn't have any kind of support at that time. I was just blindly following the things from internet, as most of you would take it as a reference, right? So I had also gone through YouTube and kind of toppers, stories, all these things. But something was lacking because my preparation was not very strategic. So I was just reading, I was not grasping the things. So it costed me 2 years. So I couldn't clear prelims in the first two attempts right after my graduation 2020. I didn't sit for placements, by the way. I just started preparing straight away after engineering. So it was all chaos. But third year, third attempt, I thought that I need some kind of guidance. That is when I have actually uh, sought guidance from my seniors. So one of them were DSPs in the state government. That person has helped me a lot in clearing many concepts. Okay, or since I had my basics clear, I could build upon it, and by third attempt, I cleared my prelims. It was in 2022, but I also fell sick, and mains I missed by 4 marks. So again, that 4 marks costed me another one more year. But at the same time, you know what happened? I have appeared for state services too. It was half-heartedly I have appeared. Somehow, by God's grace, I cleared all the three rounds in that state services, and I got selected into administrative services. So, and then I had undergone probation there. So I was trained as an administrative officer, or it is also called as lay secretary and treasurer in the Directorate of Medical Education. So that is when I was exposed to the governments. So that was my first call, and that's when I've seen in reality how does governments work and what is the role of civil servants, what kind of scope it does give for a person to individually develop, not just in professional careers but also in the personal things. So at the same time, I was also writing UPSC. By the time I joined my state government, I cleared my mains. I was preparing for interview actually, and at this attempt, I cleared my again UPSC both all the three rounds and got into Indian Postal Service last year, 2024. After that, I have joined Labasna. So when I joined Labasna, that is where I understood ki it's just all the services are same, one and same, and I don't want to run from puller to post to find what my aim is. So that's when I thought ki I've ended up in Indian Postal Service. I'll be here, and I'll find out my happiness over here only. So that's when I've decided I don't want to write anymore, even before knowing what is Indian Postal Service. So I think this is a brief introduction, and before getting into the my service and the kind of work we do, I would like to know something from you also. What kind of questions you people have? Can you please ask?
Good evening, ma'am.
Yeah, good evening. Please introduce
I'm
your name.
Yes, ma'am. I'm Monica from third year, same electrical department. And when you had a lot of help from your senior, what schedule do you work, ma'am? Like what schedule you have gotten yourself from day to night, and what do you follow for the resources,
Sorry, Ma, I didn't get your query. Can you put it clearly?
ma'am? Like you have got, you said like you have got help from your senior, right, ma'am?
Yeah, right.
Then what resources you followed after that, and what did you put yourself in the schedule, like from day to night? What this from this time to this time? What did you follow? Like we have kept any schedule, ma'am?
All right. So, my senior's guidance was like I was reading through all NCRTs and the, that books which are referred to for any civil servant, right? You all might be knowing about Lakshmi Kant, Spectrum, all kind of books. So that is what I was going through. But then I was missing the connection between one topic to another topics. So that is when my senior has stepped in and that person has helped me understanding what is the connection. See, I'm from the state board, so I'm not completely aware of the NCRTs and all. So NCRTs are like uh, it's it's very in silos. You wouldn't get a connection between what is what. So that is when senior has helped me. And coming to my strategy, I followed current affairs every day. I used to read it in the afternoon because that was the time when everybody would feel sleepy. So current affairs is something which is very dynamic. So in order to, get rid of that sleep, I used to read current affairs and then I would also practice for CSAT. Although we are engineers, it is not that easy to clear CSAT in the present times. I think from 2018, the pattern has changed a lot. So I started preparing for CSAT too. Just an hour. It is like a kind of brainstorming for me. And morning I used to read all the general studies from 9 o'clock onwards. Nothing like I wouldn't wake up at 5. It was not something for meant for me. I am not a early riser. Okay, so morning I used to finish all the GS and only two subjects per day. Either I would choose history, polity, or economy, environment, or something like that. So only two subjects per day. And afternoon mein it is all, every day current affairs followed by CSAT, and then current affairs also. After every reading, I would go through some websites. I think most of you are aware of it. Many civil service websites, current affairs ka websites like Insights, Vision IAS. So there they would post questions every day. So I would solve at least 20 questions, MCQs, and by evening I will start my optional preparation. So my optional was sociology. I've devoted complete time from evening 6:30 or 7 o'clock to till 11 o'clock. I would study optional, and then before sleeping, I think before 1 hour of sleeping, I would just revise what I've like gone through. So this was my schedule precisely.
Thank you, ma'am. It was really a hectic schedule, ma'am. I understand. It was so great to learn about that. Thank you, ma'am.
No, no, no issues. It's not that hectic because you have to enjoy the process. Since I have also told you, I didn't clear two prelims, so that is when I realized that there is something more to it. I every time I had a quote post pasted on my wall. That is something. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. So this is the only quote that every time I wanted to give up, I would see that quote and then keep myself moving.
Thank you, ma'am, for your great inspiration words, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. Uh, should we go further into my postal service or should we answer some of your queries?
Akka, I would like to ask like a general student who want to know about current affairs, what's going on in a day-to-day life or in media or in political or etc. in all the fields. What should I follow like for getting all the current affairs? I am not interested to just solve questions or something. To just get updated with the day-to-day life. What should I follow?
No, I didn't get your query, Sneha. Can you please put it again?
As a general student, like not as an aspirant to civil services, as a common student, I just want to get updated with the daily news of all the fields. So, what can I follow? Which website or some app or something which you would suggest us?
Oh, I know that most of you are Gen Z kids. I don't think so. You people will be reading newspapers or anything. So in my case, I used even today I would read newspaper every day before going to my I'm under probation. I think most of you are aware of it, and it's after my probation is done, we also have this academy session. So before going to class every day, I would read newspaper. Either it's Times of India or Indian Express or whatever it is. But I think for you people as a commoner, I would suggest something like go through all these, AI things also, Perplexity and ChatGPT, or even that. I think that would also give you summary of what is happening every day, right? Recently, I also started following it. You can schedule it every day. In the morning, 9 o'clock or something, it will send you some alerts, and it will give you, summary of all kind of current affairs. Then you can, if you want to dwell deeper into it, you can just go through it. That's what I can say. But newspapers are something which are non-negotiable. If you are really interested and if you wanted to be aware of your surroundings, I would say newspapers.
Okay.
Some of you have put your question in the chat box and I couldn't access it. Can you please ask your?
I would like to read out the question from the student.
Yeah.
So, they want to ask why most of the engineers couldn't take their core subjects as their optionals.
This is one of the age-old question. Most of the engineers do not want to take their core subjects as optionals. First and foremost is that the syllabus itself is very confusing. You do not know from which part UPSC would be asking the questions, because at least for the humanity subjects you can be very creative and write something, and the people who will be correcting your answers, they'll be more impressed with the kind of creativity you put in. That kind of creativity is not it is not applicable in the engineering subjects. It's either 1 or 0. So either you get full marks or you don't get any marks. And if you take the engineering, second, the kind guidance. So not many professors are available in the market who can guide you through the engineering subjects. And third, it is again, it boils down to marks, how many marks you have to gain. So usually people want to score more than 280. So that is not possible with engineering subjects. You really need to work very hard, and it will eat up most of your time in preparations. That is the reason most of the people do not choose engineering subjects. But there are exceptions who have taken even chemical engineering as their optional and are cleared it. It all depends upon the person again. I hope I answered your question. Sneha, can we go further, or is there any other person who wants to ask? Somebody has put it in the chat box. Can you please read it out?
So the person is asking, I have seen the question papers for past years for different subjects related to core, also related to literature and related to history, geography, and polity, etc. We can say prelims related subjects, but my confusion comes that most of the students select options as a prelims related subjects, but I'm interested in literature related subjects. So what should I do?
There is no harm in choosing literature. I think literature, you mean to talk about Hindi, yeah, English literature. If it is Hindi literature, you can actually excel, because, or any other literature of say Telugu or whatever it is, it will really help you, because if it is English literature essay, you can get a very good score, more than 150 you can expect. There are so many people who have chosen English literature and have scored exceptionally well, both in optional and essays. And although it won't be much useful in prelims is again a game of, options. That is actually, you have to be very, you should know the tricks before getting into, prelims game altogether. So for let's not talk about prelims for some time. Literature is one of the good options. If you find a very good mentor, seniors who have cleared through literature, you find hold of them, and then you can actually pursue literature as your options. I hope I answered your question. Arey, why can't you just talk, ma? It's very difficult for me to read out and open this chat box. Okay.
He says like it will be easier to score higher in mains by literature that Sanskrit, or it has very little limited here,
It has.
very little and limited subject.
Yeah, one of my senior has taken Sanskrit as the compulsory language. There are two papers called compulsory languages. One, either you can choose your, mother tongue among these 22 languages, and the other one is English. So, one of my batchmates has chosen Sanskrit just to get a fair idea of what she has read in her school. So it's not hard. There's no harm in taking, all the subjects, all the 22 languages as your literature. If you are really comfortable, you can go ahead.
So we have got a student from first year as well. He is asking how to start UPSC preparation from BTech first year.
See, first of all, I wouldn't encourage this idea of preparing from first year itself, because dynamics is clearly changing. It's not that the civil services is something everybody is looking for. There are so many plus and minus for civil services too. I would say that you see, you have joined engineering. You should get something out of nothing, right? Even if you don't like it, navigate through these 4 years. Find out what is interesting. Maybe not all subjects would be interesting for you. At least one or two subjects will be interesting. So enjoy this 4 years. Learn something which you can use at least in your personal life also, this kind of knowledge. So I don't it's not a very good idea to start from the first year, because ultimately, see, after 4 years, let's take in a hypothetical situation where your engineering uh, grades are so low, and then by the end of 4 years, you start, after that you do not even know which direction you are going through in civil services, and again you have to put in another 4 or 5 years where you could not clear it, so ultimately you will just struggle. So I wouldn't encourage this idea of starting your preparation from first year itself.
So the student is asking about UPSC ESC exam.
UPSC what?
ESC, engineering service exam, is it?
That is differently also, that's a different exam. It is not related to civil service examination. So I'm not the right person to talk about because I have cleared civil service examination, not the engineering service.
One of the student has a query like the person is doing masters of law and his motto is to write UPSC. So how would he start his preparation to get onto the right track?
So I think he has finished his graduation, right, and then he's preparing for masters. Is it so, or something parallelly is he doing?
Ma'am, hello ma'am. Good evening, ma'am. Ma'am, actually I completed BTech in NIT Andhra Pradesh 2024, ma'am.
Okay. Good
Hello,
evening.
ma'am.
Yeah. Good
Uh,
evening. I can.
actually, I completed 2024 BTech at NIT Andhra Pradesh Tripoli, ma'am. Now I am currently studying Masters of Law in New Delhi, ma'am. National Law University, ma'am.
Okay. Great. Great.
Ma'am, actually my motto is main dream UPS, ma'am. But suddenly I came to change LLM, ma'am. Masters of. Hello, ma'am.
So you want to pursue civil services, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, it's a right time to start since you finished your graduation and then you're pursuing law. I think it's time for you to choose the optionals. So based on your interest, either you can choose engineering subjects or literature or humanities, whatever you like it. So from now onwards, I think it's actually a right time for you to start. What is your
Okay,
query?
ma'am.
What is your query?
Ma'am, now I am going to start UPSC means what in UPSC lot of subjects is there, no, ma'am. Hello, ma'am.
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you.
Ma'am, in UPSC lot of subjects is there, ma'am. But in my curriculum, some subjects are matching, ma'am. Like that way, is it do that subjects to UPSC or choosing my subject?
Your voice is breaking now. Can you please ask it again?
Okay, ma'am.
Sneha, can you please read it out what he has put in the chat box?
Yeah. So he's asking in my curriculum the subjects are the same and there is the UPSC. I will do parallel and How will I change my subjects?
No, I didn't get the query. What is it? So he has some kind of, in both law subjects and then some subjects which are actually needed for UPSC. And what is his query? I didn't get it.
Madam, hello, madam. Hello,
Yeah,
madam.
yeah, yeah.
Madam, I am telling that quality is there in my Masters of Law subject, madam.
Okay.
Regarding that, I can choose that same subject or I will change that subject, madam, in UPSC.
Acha, you want to choose PSIR as your optional, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
You can choose it. See, political science, though I think you have it in your law. So it's something like you will have some already good foundations, and then you can add upon it, and then you can build
That
upon it.
that
It's a
uh,
very good optional.
that question only I will raising, ma'am. It's continue or parallel or I will change my subjects like history. Actually, in my curriculum, I cannot choose history, madam. I can
Okay.
choose only political. That is the query, ma'am.
Okay, okay. So coming to this optional question, so one advice I would give for everyone is that pehle you should go with the syllabus. So that syllabus is actually published every year in the UPSC notification itself. See that syllabus and then find some
Yes,
books
ma'am.
related to that, and then go through some 4 or 5 years question papers. Okay, and also with that you also see the toppers answers for the toppers mock sheets will be present in the internet. Comparatively, if you can compare all these four
Yes,
things,
ma'am.
there are some subjects like history which will be very very interesting. But then if you see the previous year questions, there is one question for 50 marks where you have to locate the places given on in the map and then write something about it. There are some places which nobody knows. That kind of places will be asked in UPSC. So no matter how much ever you read for history, there are some kind of things which we cannot write in the exams. But for other optionals like sociology, PSIR, there is a lot of scope for creativity. You can put it in your answers. So for that, you have to go
Okay.
through previous year questions, toppers answer sheets, then syllabus, and then the standard books for that. If everything goes well with your ideologies and if you can grasp through all these things, then it is the best thing to choose any optional. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Ma'am, there's another query like the person is uh, they have written already the UPSC uh, first round mains. So they're asking if will this be helpful in the interview for getting marks even if I score less in the interview cause they have already scored well in mains for essay, geography, ethics and optional. And how is it easy to making a timetable and is it easy for following or but if someday my schedule breaks I get disappointed and every day get fuzzy and muzzle that time, how could I manage this broken schedule?
So, first query, it is that if your marks are very high and you're not confident in interview, there are so many people, my seniors, some of them have cleared UPSC. I think, I don't want to mention any of their names, but one of the person got only 100 marks in the interview and cleared UPSC, got into IAS. Okay, there are so many examples of that. You don't have to worry about interview or mains or anything. Your only aim is to give yourself 100%. Don't expect the results. Okay, interview is something very very unpredictable. For example, single 1 year, so many people have got more than 210. So getting 185 plus itself is a very huge thing. And I think more than 100 people have got, in my batch itself, more than 100 people have got more than 200 in the interview. So it was all miracle. Nobody knows why did they get. Even if you ask the candidates who cleared through that exam, that interview, and why did they get 200, nobody can say it. So UPSC interview is very, very unpredictable. It all depends upon the chairperson who is taking your interview that day and their mood. So don't think about interview. And the second query, it's like if there is a break in the schedule, you get fussy. So it's actually a good thing to have some breaks in your schedule, right? It should not be monotonous. Say, for example, for 4 or 5 days you're following your schedule, and then fifth day or sixth day you wanted to attend some party or function, you go enjoy. Then seventh day, then you slowly start regaining things. Okay, you slowly start reading. Maybe not 7 hours or 8 hours, maybe 2 3 hours. Then you increase your time. Okay, it should not be a barrier for you to stop your preparation. So 1 or 2 day break in your preparation, I think everybody will experience it. There will be a lot of festivals, everything. So I think that will not be a barrier. Okay.
The broken schedule here, he means like he's unable to follow the schedule due to some other reasons. Like, so how can he just cover up that and get out of it?
No, I didn't get it. So what is broken schedule actually for you? For me, broken schedule in the sense that today I would think I would every day keep my target very high. See, I want to revise some 4 chapters today, but I couldn't revise it. Maybe I'll revise only 2 chapters. Two will be pending. Next day, this will be adding up for next day. So it's a kind of broken only, no, that schedule, because my targets I haven't achieved. It's okay. Keep it for the next day. If you wanted to finish your entire preparation in, say for example, entire revision in 3 months. If you cannot do it for 4 months. Is that what you meant by broken schedule or something else? See, first of all, discipline, it should be uh, inner thing. Nobody can give you any kind of motivation. You should be all the time self motivated. There should be only one aim for you. If you want to achieve something in your life, you have to be self motivated. Nobody can come and ask you to read every day. Okay, even if you are not able to follow the schedule, give a break, understand for analyze key what is happening, why are you not following the schedule, what are the barriers that are preventing you from doing it. If there are something very unavoidable, then you strategically plan your schedule in a way that you can cover it in the next day.
The other student goes like she's currently doing CSC in NIT AP, and she's also doing BSc on data science and its applications in IIT Madras. It's an online course provided to students, and then they want to also prepare for GATE, CS, and DA. And how do they start, and how can they allocate time doing all these multiple things at a time?
uh, I see. I'm not the right person to give any kind of guidance for the technical things. So, but it's a general. If it is a general query, it is all upon individual. See, if you really wanted to do some things, you have to find time. You should be the one who is making strategy for yourself. So you have to prioritize things. You should know what do you want. Pele, what is your first priority? Say what is second, and then according to it, you have to make your own timetable. I think most of the toppers they have their own strategy. It's not that you cannot blindly follow someone's timetable, right?
Yeah. The other student goes like, will CGPA of BTech matters or affects the UPSC CSC exam?
No, not at all. Your GPA does not matter at all. They wouldn't even notice it because final May there will be detailed application format that is called the DAF. It will be handed over to the all the people sitting in the UPSC interview board. They will be going through it. It will be almost 9 to 10 pages where you have to explain about yourself in those 9 papers. There, they would it would be like what is your marks in your 10th standard, 12th standard, then engineering. Maybe if your grades are very low, or even if they are very high, there is no, there is no hard and fast rule that panel members will notice it and ask you. Even if they ask, you should be in a position to tell. Say, for example, if somebody grades are very low and they have appeared for UPSC interview in the first attempt itself at the age of 22 or 21, they wouldn't be minding it. And maybe you will be in a position to tell that you have prepared for civil services the entire 4 years and you didn't concentrate much on it. So that is why your grades are low. You have to be very honest. See, if you bluff in the interview panel, they will just figure it out because most of them will be a retired people, either for from army background or academicians or a very distinguished people. So most of them are into civil services background only. So they will figure it out. You don't have to bluff. You have to be very very honest.
So a student is asking, what are those things which show confident, overconfident, and underconfident candidate in interview for the panel?
Um, See, some interviews are very, very unpredictable. So I will talk about two interviews of mine. So one is through state government, the other one is by central government. So one is by APPSC chairperson. So there I was very naive. Okay. I was just 23-year old. I just finished my BTech and then I have no prior experience working in the government, neither in government nor in the private sector. So I entered into that chamber. All the people who were sitting in that panel were serving IPS and IAS only. So they have asked the questions which are relevant to me because they knew that I was not working and I am a recent passed out. So their questions were about my engineering. Why didn't I sit in placements? And when was this engineering institute come into existence? And at that time, capital was a big issue. Why? What do you think about these things? From a 23-year-old, what can they expect? They cannot expect a very, seasoned answers, right? Whatever the knowledge we gain from the newspapers or whatever things we can comprehend, that you have to put it. But you cannot you cannot say in a way that maybe I do not know. You do not have to use this kind of words. You should be answering in such a way that, sir, I feel it in a way. Okay, you should tell them that you should express in such a way that this is your opinion. It is not something which is put in your mind. Okay, this is something which you comprehended with the existing knowledge. So that thing will tell them that this is your kind of understanding. This is your comprehension power regarding the social issues. So that is when they will understand ki who is confident, who is underconfident, and who is overconfident. Overconfident in the sense that maybe if they ask you something like, "Can you eradicate poverty?" Yeah, sir, I would do it when I become IAS. There will be zero poverty. How you have to be in a position to explain, right? For I think for of such type of questions, the better answer is like, "Sir, we cannot eradicate poverty, but then we can move in the direction which will make the poverty levels come down. So that is how you have to modify your tone.
The question is like, you don't know the fact and the figures related to some question, and how do you manage to deny them in a polite way?
Ah, that's how. See, even more, they do not know the answer. So I would just tell a funny incident. So I was going to a mock interviews before getting into the final interview. There was some question. I forgot the question, but they were also retired IPS people. They have asked me this question, and it was a very subjective one. I said, sir, I have no idea of it. Okay. In the end, when the mock interview was over, they would be giving your feedback. So that is when I have asked the same question to the panel member. So you have asked me this question. So can you please explain the concept? He's like, I do not know. I just asked whether you know it or not. Got it? So most of them do not some there are some facts and figures which they do not know, and that doesn't mean that you have to tell some random figures. You can tell them, sir, I have to read about it, or I'm not able to recall it right now. These are the some of the you know polishing points you can use. And one more thing, these days UPSC interview members have access to all internet, chat GPTs, Perplexity, everything. They will be sitting there with their laptops open. Even if you bluff, they would just Google it out, find from internet that your answers are wrong. They are, two steps ahead of you. Don't worry about them. You should only think about yourselves.
So there is a question like, do the panel members will judge you on how you are sitting, how you are dressed, and how is your eye contact with the one member? Like if one member is asking a question to you, you have to maintain the eye contact with that one person specially, or you need to maintain the eye contact with the whole panel, or something matters or in the interview.
See, again, all these are like cherry on top. So, what matters is your confidence and the kind of answers you're giving. There are some people who didn't wear suits, who didn't wear saris. They have just gone through interview just by wearing a suit, you know, normal pants, and then shirts. That's it. It's all about the comprehensive power that you have. It's all about the awareness that you are having regarding the societal issues. I think all these matters. So other things matters, but they are not the most important ones. They are just cherry on top. That's it.
Actually, recently I was hearing an interview of some UPSC aspirant, and she was a lady, and she told like she wore some special sari and it has some work, handwork done on it. And the panel was asking, actually, it was about her real interview. She was sharing an experience. So she was telling like they asked her question about her dressing sense, why she wore that sari and why is that color, and why is the embroidery in such a way. So as they're noticing it, how do we manage it? Like,
See, that is the point. She has deliberately worn it because she wanted panel to ask that question, right? That is how you guide your own interview. There are some tricks for that. See, like for example, if you want panel members to ask about your hometown, somehow you push it, that somehow you put that thing in your one of your answers, say that I'm from so and so place, and which might be interesting for any human sitting in the other side. Similarly, if you are wearing something very special, which is related to your culture, or which is also related to your geography of the place, that will be a catchy thing for the people sitting on the other side. Obviously they will be asking, so you have to be prepared for it. That is when you are guide, that's when you will understand the interview is going in a way that I wanted it. I'll tell one more example of mine. It was during engineering only. So when I was in my third year, I think most of us will be choosing electives, right? That's when I've chosen key soft skills as one of the elective. So soft skills mein there we had this session called just a minute session. So just a minute, nobody knows ki what kind of topic you will be given when you go to the stage, right? I don't know. I do not know who was the faculty at that time. So the faculty was asking the. He has given options for us either to choose from technical or from the general. So I wanted him to ask about my hometown. At that time, my father was posted in some other place, which is historically and then culturally rich area. So I got to know about it very recently, and I wanted the person to ask about it. So before faculty gives you topics, you have to introduce yourselves. So I went to the stage. I have introduced in a way that. My hometown was something which is catchy for him. And then faculty got it and he asked me to talk about that hometown itself, which I was very confident enough and I have spoken. So that is how you have to guide your interview. It is not always possible, but okay.
Looks like it's a tricky way to control your interview.
Yeah, it is a tricky one, but then there are some things which you can handle. Even they will be understanding. If say there are like 20 questions, for 10 questions you are seeing answer as no, then they will understand ki, okay, maybe she or he is not prepared in this topic. Let's make him comfortable and let's ask something which that person knows. It's okay, you can manage it.
So another question comes up like as you have prepared for UPSC and somehow you are unable to clear the UPSC exam at the final. What's the other alternative the person can choose as they have suffered the long journey?
This was one of the question that I too had in my preparation. So when I started it, first two attempts I couldn't clear it. Third attempt I said that I want to take some external support, and I have asked my parents that you give me two more chances. If I don't want to, if I couldn't clear, maybe I would have joined MBA. That was my plan B, and state services was not my plan. That came in between, but I would say that it's better to have plan B because you never know what happens, and it is very uncertain that you would get into the service or you may not get into it. So it's always good to have the backup plan.
Okay. So the question is like, should I start writing answer script for the mains from the first year after completing the whole syllabus?
Um, I would say that you don't write answers for the for the sake of writing for UPSC. For this, I have one more trick. So you do not know what kind of answers are expected from a civil servant. So and since you are in your first year of engineering, you are not completely aware ki what are the questions that are asked by UPSC. So my suggestion would be for you to go with the newspapers, read any editorial, write in a language, write in a way that you are comfortable. Write that as a summary and ask one of your friends, or you may read it after a week or 2 weeks. Then you will understand ki what kind of things you are reading, what kind of things you are interested in. So I think this will help you in the future. after clearing your prelims. Before that, I don't think so it will be useful, because you are not aware of what questions are asked. Okay.
It's like, should I start writing the answers writing from the first day of the preparation, or should I just complete the whole syllabus and get an idea and then go for the answer writing?
The answer writing is non-negotiable, first of all. See, because you have to finish 20 questions in 3 hours. So 20 questions comes down to, I think, 45 pages of the booklet you have to fill it. So every question will carry some 200 to 250 words. Okay. So for that, every question, you have to assign 6 or 7 minutes to complete entire answer. And the questions will also be very dynamic. You cannot predict what kind of questions you will be getting. Within that 7 or 8 minutes, you first of all you have to understand what the question they have asked, what are the things that you have to put in. So all these things will come only after practice, only after you know entire syllabus and then the subject. Okay, that thing initially you wouldn't be knowing when you started your preparation. So my advice would be read editorials from the newspaper and write it as a summary. So once you get hold of these things, once you can comfortably write the summaries in say 100 or 150 words, it is more than enough. Once you clear your prelims, then you will be more confident to write those 3 hour exam for those 45 pages. Okay.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
uh, what are the topics I should prepare for essay writing actually?
For essay writing, you have to go through your previous year essays, because every year, there were some times before 2018, sections used to be divided in section A, section B. One section is completely for a statements. They would just give a quote and ask you to write on it. For examples, there was a question ki, not all wanderers are lost. You have to write 1500 words or 1200 words for this single statement. How would you write it without having any kind of knowledge? And there was another, at that time, another section was completely for the, environmental topics or science and technology topics. But after 2018 and 19, it is completely vague. You cannot predict what kind of topics are asked. So, my suggestion would be to go through all the previous year statements. They are only quotes and statements which are told by the famous personalities. See the answer copies of the toppers, understand from which angle they are writing, and if you still don't get it, you should get a external guidance. There are so many books available written by civil service toppers itself. They have broken down the essay into many parts. How to start introduction, what should be there in the body, how to end, what is the way ahead. All these things are very properly given in the books written by civil servants.
Ma'am, my one question is there. When you went to Lavasna, definitely there might be a trip called Bharat Brahman.
Sorry, Bharat.
Bharat Darshan.
Come on. Okay, what is your question?
So, what was your experience? What was your learnings from that Bharat Brahman? Because you have to explain after that and when you return back to Lavasna.
Actually, first of all, Labasna is a foundation course for all the civil servants, for all the Group A officers and the All India Service officers. It is only for 15 weeks. In that 15-week course training, we do not have Bharat Darshan. Bharat Darshan is completely different from the foundation course. Bharat Darshan will happen in every service. For us, in my Indian Postal Service, it is for 2 weeks, which will be happening in the next year. And similarly, for other services, uh, it is completely, it's very personal to every service. And then in Labasna, what we had was the village visits. So village visits may we have to go to very rural niche villages and find out the social issues present there, like what is the number of schools present there, how many children are going to schools, what is the literacy level. I think for me it happened in the last year. I have visited this Unnao district in Uttar Pradesh. I think most of you are aware Unnao is a very infamous district for that rape case that has happened. So it was a very niche village. There we had a first hand experience of what poverty is. We had to stay in those houses. Actually, there were the schools. In government schools, we had to stay for 3, 4 days. Somebody would provide accommodations. Maybe Gram Pradhan would be providing accommodations. We have to talk with the villagers, talk with the Sarpanch secretary, then attend meetings with the BDOs, uh, kind of mail us everything. So that is when you get exposure to what is a work done by a civil servant. So Labasna, we do not have Bharat Darshan. Labasna is completely different. Okay.
And what is your cadre right now?
Cadre in the sense I am Indian Postal Service officer, so I'm under probation. 10 months have passed, and then there is another 10 more months. So I'm right under. Abhi I am in Ghaziabad, Rafi Ahmed Kidwai National Postal Academy. So it is my second module, and I have one more module to go.
And after that, you have to return back to Labasna.
No, no, Lavasana course is done. It is only for 15 weeks. It's a foundational course. After that, we will join our parent academies. My parent academy is Rafi Ahmed Kidwai National Postal Academy. After that,
And
I will be posted as a senior superintendent of post SSP. That will be we'll be charging a division, so we'll be posted as divisional heads.
so actually, I am very curious about what does IAS actually do in its offices, PCS do in offices, what you do actually as an Indian Postal Service.
So, okay, right. Like all of you, I was also completely unaware of what Indian Postal Service officer will be doing. So we'll be posted as divisional heads. Divisional heads, division comprises of more than one or two districts. Maybe the largest division is three districts. So we'll be head of all the post offices under us. There are hierarchy of post offices called head post office, sub post office, and branch post offices. Staff will be around 1,000 to 1,500. We have to look after all the staff matters, vigilance matter, establishment in the sense that we have to redeploy the entire staff. We are the recruiting authority for the Grameen Dak Sevaks. Then we conduct melas. Then we do philately exhibitions. Then we do so many, citizen-centric services. For example, passport seva kendras are opened in the post offices. We are the people who will be signing, issuing authorities, and pension disbursements, Aadhaar enrollments. All these will be done by post offices, and we will be monitoring all these activities. And this is our first posting. So if we work in the fields, we are called as the senior superintendent of post offices. Otherwise, we can also go into the directorate, do the policy making. So there we are called as ADGs, Additional Director General. There we do all kind of policy making for the entire country. So there we also have the opportunities to work in the abroad, as we have this union, Universal Postal Union, where we go into abroad, work with the other postal services of the country, of the other countries, collaborate with them, make policies. And we can also work in the philately department, and then we can also go into our post army postal services with a rank of captain, and then we can don the uniform. with I think it's only 2 3 week introductory training. After that, we can go into army postal services and then become colonel, major general. So we can reach the top positions in the army too. Apart from that, we can also go into deputations like the registrars in the IITs or IIScs and the other departments like CBI, CVO. Most of the raw chiefs are from the some of the raw chiefs are from the Indian Postal Service. Then into UPSC as a chairperson or members. All these things are the career opportunities in the Indian Postal Service.
Most of the time, ma'am, people are who are preparing for UPSC, uh, they are very much curious about what are the privileges are given to the person who has qualified the civil services, IAS, IPS, IPOS, IFS, like you are, what you are getting privileges and things.
I think there is a lot of glamour for this, but I have to clarify this thing. First of all, whatever the privileges that we get, that we cannot enjoy because we'll be most of the time we will be in the offices in the fields. Only our family members can enjoy it, and not everybody will get the vehicle because there are some jobs like they are not field jobs. For mine is a field job, so we will be getting an inspection vehicle. So that vehicle we have to use only for the inspections. We cannot use it for daily commute, and we get a bungalow. We get the house servants. Not for every service, only for the services, and for the all India services, IAS and IPS, they will be given state cadres. Most of their life, I think the 30 or 30 plus years of service, they will be in their state cadres only. They will also be entitled to get vehicle, that is staff car for them, and a bungalow. Uh, but once they get into secretariat or something, they will be just like any other government employee only, a group A government employee. Even for us, we will be in different positions. If we work in directorate, we are just like a normal employee. But if we work in field, we do get all kind of perks. And there are other services like Indian Audit and Account Service, where they do not get the facility of car and all. Similarly to other account services, defense account service, defense estate service, theirs is like a desk job only, so they do not get. Not every service will have that perks. Okay.
Okay, sometime, ma'am, it is seen that the officers are under pressure due to government. Uh, like you understand that if government is disappointed, that they will do transfer out for them. Are you facing in this 10-month period any pressure from government or this service, Indian Postal Service, face any government pressure?
So, Abhi, I'm not posted, I'm under training only. So, for now, there is no kind of direct interaction with the government, the so called what you are mentioning. I think it's politicians. It is completely immune. I would say for the level of mine is level 10 ka. For this kind of posting, we are immune to the political interference because most of our job, which includes citizen services, and policy implementations. It's not something very related to political interference. So for now, we do not have any of such thing. But we do have interaction with the politicians. For example, in the pension disbursements and all, it is collaborated with the state governments. That is when we have to go there, give our presentations, tell them ki how much pension disbursement has happened, what are the hiccups we are facing. So interaction will be there, but not the interference in the service. Okay.
So the new pension scheme and old pension scheme comes under your department.
No, no, it doesn't come under our department. Pensions are looked after by Ministry of Personnel. No, I am from Ministry of Communications.
Okay, 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 fine, fine.
So coming to the question, it's a very basic question. I understand, but it's a very important. Like as we are in the engineering domain now, how do we manage if we want to prepare for UPSC and what sources shall we use? Like we have so many online resources present. How do we just get a proper source so that it can guide us in a right way rather than going in a wrong way?
So it's about person starting their preparation from scratch. Is it so? Or someone who is already into the preparation?
Person starting from scratch and interested in getting UPSC service.
Acha, so for this, there are so many guidance videos in YouTube. Many are from the toppers. So, there are very good guidance videos from the scratch, what you are expecting, like how to begin your preparation. Uh, if I have some time, I'll find them and share those videos with you, share those links. You can go through it.
And another question is like, I have seen a trend in the UPSC service students. Like, after they do the service for 1 or 2 years or some certain period of time, I don't know what happens to them or what they feel about the service that they leave it and go into some other field. And I saw like some Akshat Jain. He joined some an academy or some education platform as a educator, and many other people from other services like other than UPSC working hard for it day and night. Why they are just leaving it?
See, I don't want to name any of the seniors, but I would just want to tell ki, there is no, first of all, we should understand what we want in our life. It's not that some of your neighbors or some of your seniors have cleared the civil services and you want to clear it. So let's say you cleared it because some of your known person has cleared it, and you do not know what do you want to do in the government. There are many things which are not out in the public. Fairly, you should understand, and there are many things, many hiccups you will face in your life, in your service too, where you want to do something, but the system will not agree. Maybe there are, so your seniors may not agree. For all these things, you have to be very prepared. There are things which you cannot do it, instantly. It will take some time. You should gain confidence from your seniors. Seniors are very important in the sense you should gain confidence from your staff. You should understand what is happening in the government. Then, if you want to really work on some things, you have to forego your me time. Recently, I have met one of the collectors. So she belongs to 2015 batch. I have asked this question, ki, ma'am, are you satisfied with your service? So she has told me that 80% of her duty goes into protocol. Only 20% of the time she can devote to the public. So when it comes to protocol, I think many of you do not know protocol is something which is non-negotiable. Say for example, let's take an example that you are posted in Goa as a divisional head. For example, let me we'll take example of mine only. I am posted in Goa as a divisional head, and let's say there is a conference that is happening in Goa, and all your secretary, DG, everybody will be coming. So you should take care of all the things. You should go to airport, receive them, make sure that DG, secretary, all these people are, uh, their accommodation is good. They travel, everything should be comfortable. And Goa is also a kind of tourist place, and maybe your seniors would like to visit. Then also you have to make arrangements. So In our case, maybe it could be like 3 times or 4 times in a month. But imagine for a for a IAS or IPS. For IAS, though they for example, if a MLA wants to see some kind of oversee some kind of work that is happening, collector has to present there, and then IPS also have to look after the law and order over there. So it's like 80% of your time will go into protocol only. Only 20% you will get it. You have to squeeze that time either from your me time or from your sleep time, whatever it is. If you really want to work for the people, you have to squeeze out those 20% of the time. And many people will falter in it. Once they come into service, they want all the glory, all kind of perks and privileges. Once they do not get it, or once the things don't go in a way that they think, they will feel very left out, and then they would reimagine or rethink of all the decisions, like why did they enter into civil services, and they could easily quit and then get into other fields which they are really interested in. So the thing is, the root lies here. You should understand yourself. You should be ready to face the challenges. You should be ready to conquer them and move ahead. Okay.
Okay. So another question is like, is there any moment that you felt low, or how did you like just get out of it? How did you manage to just overcome it?
Is it regarding preparation?
Yeah, regarding preparation.
Yeah, there were times, as I've told you, this was a quote that was pasted in my wall. That was the only motivation I had, and there were times I want to quit it because after two prelims, that too I've lost prelims in a very simple margin. I think 2 or 3 marks. Very small margin, and for that simple 2 3 marks, I have to wait for another year. But I have not. But again, I had some regret also because for me civil servant was a dream from 10th standard or 11th standard. So that is when I thought ki, let's give another two more attempts. We'll see if it works out well and good. If it doesn't, maybe I'm not meant for this. I will see pursue some other career. But very honestly, I was not looking for any other career at that time. I thought I will just give two more attempts. I will think about another career only after these two attempts. And one more biggest confidence for me at that time was I had read this book called Alchemist. So I know it is a very fictional book, and but that has given me a lot of confidence. That simple 200 pages ka book, which has actually helped me a lot. There is a quote from the Alchemist that when you really want something, the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it. That I used to believe a lot.
So how do you used to deal with the subjects which you don't feel, which you feel boring and they're tough, and how would you just look after them?
See, there's this one more interesting thing. At that time, when I was preparing, there was no AI, right? Only thing I could rely upon was YouTube. If at all, if I do not understand the concept, look for the internet sources, find out from which website or which video it is interesting, or at least go to some seniors who knew what is happening, and then they would explain it to me. But I think in this world of AI, you can do magic whatever you want. Even if you don't get it, you can put your query in any of the AI. It will break down things in such a simple manner, and I think this is how you can make things very interesting.
Did you any time feel a distraction from social media, as there are so many contents and so many people with respect to UPSC as well? It feels a distraction. How did you manage it?
Yeah. Yes, it is a distraction. I completely agree with you. I do not have any social medias at that time. No social media handle. I used to restrict even phone calls with my parents. Also, I would talk only once in a day. That too in the night. Say for 15 or 20 minutes. I had never attended any kind of festivals or anything for those 2 years. Social media was a complete no for me, and limited interaction with my friends. I used to have a very limited set of friends, maybe once in a month or so. If I'm feeling very low, I used to call them. Otherwise, I used to keep myself very low. And then painting was one of the things that helped me a lot. I'm a creative person. I like painting and drawing. So that's how, whenever would feel like I don't want to read or it was so overwhelming for the day, I would just pick up my brushes and draw something.
So in the interview, there might be some certain moments where the interviewer is asking you some question and you're perfect and well known about the topic, and you can just explain them completely. But it's not meant to be so, because you may be overshowing your smartness at something. How do you overcome that, like thing, not to overspeak front of them?
No, I don't think so. There is such kind of restrictions because interview usually happens. There is no particular time for that. It might complete in 15 minutes or it might take 1 hour. There is nothing like that. Those people are retired and they really wanted to listen from the youngsters like you. Don't worry about it. Even if you are over explaining, they will just understand that this person is really curious, and they might also like you because you are over explaining things. It will be easy for them to understand, right? Same thing can be replicated in your service too. Say, for example, if you become an IAS and there is some problem, and if you want to convince other people, this skill you can really use it. I don't think so. It will be an obstacle for you. Don't worry about it.
So it's like, did you start your preparation from the early days of engineering? Like as you said, the first year of BTech is not meant for it.
Yeah, right. So, my first year of engineering was really overwhelming. As I told you that I didn't prepare even for JEE mains. I just wanted to write it because all of my friends were writing, and I have applied for humanities thing. I have also got admission into humanities, but my parents didn't agree, and they wanted me to join engineering only. So I was like, okay, I'll be chilling for all these 4 years. I too don't want to do it. So, but I need to have some excuse. So initially bought some NCRTs. I've started reading it just like a story. I didn't read it for the sake of UPSC or anything. It was just meant to understand because I'm from the state boards, and central boards are completely different. So I just read it like a story, but it is going nowhere. It is giving me no results because there is nothing called exams where you can find out what is your progress, right? For first 2 years, it was like this, but I thought, let me just keep this aside for some time. I'll see it once the engineering is done. So entirely from second year, second semester, I have devoted my time to engineering only. So third and fourth year, I completely got introduced. I got very fascinated about some subjects like power electronics, smart grid, etc., which I really liked it. So I didn't touch any of the UPSC syllabus in those 2 years. Only after those 2 years, once I cleared engineering and got my results, I opened UPSC books at that time after engineering.
Did you ever feel like I would have started early so that I would have completed early during my engineering studying itself, like UPSC preparation?
No, I don't have any regret, but I have some other regret ki I might have waited for another 2 years to get into service because I just feel that I'm too young to get into services, and then people, whenever abhi I'm having some independent charge. Now I'm under my second module, so here I'm taking as independent charge, and people I'm talking to are almost 50 plus and 60 plus. They are my PAs, they are my staff. So sometimes I feel like I had come very early, but it's okay. I have no regrets, nothing. In fact, I feel so grateful for having at least 10 months of prior experience working in the state government, then getting into central government. So I have no regrets.
If any more students have any queries, please post it so that we can continue the session. Akka, I would like to ask you, do you have anything to speak as an experience and share anything else with us?
I think I've answered all your queries, and whatever I wanted to share, I've shared through some examples. It would be better if you put your questions. Otherwise, we can end this.
So, when can we start the previous year question mock test while the preparation?
Previous year questions.
Yeah, like mock test if we want to give.
Uh, so, so previous year questions are very very important. So they are one of the foundations for your preparation. So there are compilations of past 25 years ka books. So what you have to do is once you finish your entire syllabus, say at least 80% of the first reading has happened, you can, even the questions were separated in a way that ancient history ka questions are different, and then medieval history questions are different. So let's say you have finished your entire ancient history, then you open those PYQs, then you find out what kind of question you try to solve those PYQs. Sometimes you will be very, curious to know that the questions will be repeated. It's not just the questions, even the options that are given in those MCQs, they will frame questions with those MCQs too in the coming years. So if you go through all those 25 years questions, MCQs, and MCQs may every word you have to be very very careful, and if you Google about it also, you will get some kind of information with those options too. That's how. Once you finish your reading, you have to do those PYQs as if you are doing it for the first time. I think I have done PYQs in every attempt, in before every mock. CSAT, you all know that CSAT is very difficult, right? I've never written any mock test for CSAT. I used to write only PYQs papers. I used to sit for 2 hours, take that paper, solve it. There will be 80 questions. Solving 60 questions itself is a time taking thing. And you have to get at least 66 marks, 66.67 marks in CSAT. So my only target was I have to get 100 marks in the PYQs. So that's how I used to solve it. And for mock test, after your entire PYQs and after your entire revisions, you can try to attempt not more than 10. there will be umpteen number of things in the market. You don't have to follow everything. Let's say you take you randomly pick some mock test, four or five, uh, ones according to the subjects, the other ones complete mock test. Say in that sense 10 mock tests are enough for prelims. And for mains, once you clear your prelims, uh, you can there will be a gap for prelims and mains, right? You will get results in 20 days once you write your prelims. In those 20 days, you can actually start writing for the mains. Slowly improve your time. For example, maybe you take 10 minutes for a question, initially 15 minutes also, but you have to make cut it short to 7 minutes. So in those 20 days, you can practice writing, in a certain time period. After those 20 minutes, you can start yourself enrolling into any coaching institute. There you have to practice all the mock tests because that is when your speed will be tested. So mains is something very, it's not about your no, it's a game where your speed and your knowledge, all your comprehension will be tested. You have to tell them that you are an excellent person, you are fit for the civil services in those 3 hours. How would you say you have to write it? How would you write? Only you practice. Once you know the content, only then you can put it. So those 3 months from prelims to mains, it's a very hectic thing. You have to lose your sleep. You have to work very hard those 3 months, right? Mock test, I would say 10 for the optional and then another 10 for your GS. Along with that, you go through PYQ questions and see the answers of the seniors, or you take guidance from your mentors, and that's how you can actually work on your writing skills in those 3 months.
So the question, I think that's the last question from the people. So, what would you give a message to the UPSC aspirants who have failed already for 2 to 3 times, and they feel like UPSC might be not for me or is not for me? How would you pass a message for them?
I would say that you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have everything figured out. You just have to keep moving one honest step at a time. If you ask me what matters most in the journey, it is perseverance. Perseverance is what keeps you steady when your results don't come, when others move ahead, and when your doubt creeps in. It is a time which will turn you an ordinary person into someone extraordinary. So, my only advice would be find happiness in every situation, enjoy the process. Eventually, when you look back, you will see that process itself, it has become the destinations. So, don't lose your sleep on it. Everybody can achieve it. Sometimes, universe takes a longer route to prepare you for something better. And don't compare your journey with anyone else. Your pace is perfect, so trust your timing, believe in your story. Don't stop showing up for yourself. Just have that faith and patience, you will achieve it.
Ma'am, is there
Yes,
any most interesting question that was asked to you in the interview, ma'am?
my
Most
interview,
memorable or most challenging question?
I think both the times in state government and in central government, that most interesting question was why three capitals. So at that time, government really wanted to have three capitals, and most of the people who would be appearing for the interview, they have to put forward the government views only because ultimately we have to work for the government. But I deferred in that. I had my own reasons. I think panel was okay with whatever the reason I have given. Apart from that, I don't think so. I actually do not remember. And one more question was regarding the Dwakra groups present in Andhra Pradesh. They are really doing very well in terms of, women empowerment and all. I was also not aware of all those things in previously. once I started preparing, I got to know about these things, and those are some things which are interesting for me.
So I think that's the end of the questions. We have got so many questions answered, and we have shared some experiences with you, and you shared your beautiful memories and uh, like examples that you have and your journey with us. Thank you, Akka. Thank you so much for your beautiful experiences and explanation of journeys and guidance to all of us.
Thank you so much for listening. It honestly means a lot to share this with all of you. You know, few years ago, I was right where you are. And if I could make it through, you absolutely can do. Keep going. One day, you will find that you have arrived exactly where you are meant to be. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Akka. Like we were planning this session from last 2 weeks, and we were curious about to have this first meet with you. Like this is the first meet that we have arranged from the alumni group.
Oh,
Like for that's a yours is a first meet. So thank you so much for showing up for us.
yeah. It's my privilege to have me. You guys have invited me. Thank you so much.
Okay, Akka, we can end this meeting. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.